Galilee. I'm a little early today, but that's okay, I guess. It's only going to be 90 degrees today, so I got the dogs out still. I'll have to go back in a while and bring them in, but that only takes a minute. Figure I'll leave them outside, and it's nice. I mean, they should, let them have a right to stay outside, So while people are coming in, I'm going to check for sound and picture, which we have, and then I'm going to do a couple of fast posts up in the chat, and by then we think people will come in. Okay, and the title kind of explains what we're going to talk about today. I don't want to do a lot of talking while I'm typing because that's how I make typos. So, there we go. And something didn't work. Let's see, something's wrong here. Oh, there it goes. I don't know what was wrong. All right. So I'll be another moment or two getting my posts up in the chat. Oh, I know, somebody was posting while I was typing and it knocked me off. Yeah, Wordsmith, I haven't seen you for a while, yeah. I'm just going to put my email address up now, and that'll take, I don't know, a few seconds, and then we'll get started. Okay, got everything up. Being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise to start, and I have no control over you joining in or not joining in. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so we'll cover a couple of the news items. Hurricane Beryl hit Mexico and reduced in its intensity substantially. But now it's on a direct path to Texas with a broad cone, and it should hit a lot of Texas as well as Louisiana, some of Louisiana anyway. Now, the things that need to remember, being an old hurricane watcher from my days in the past, the Gulf of Mexico this time of year is quite warm, and right now it is quite warm. And when the hurricane passes over warm water, it intensifies in strength, and it's probably little less than 3 days from making landfall in Texas. It could veer off course from Texas, but when it gets this close and it's such a broad cone, probably not, but it always could, but probably not. the intensity could go up. It could come in as a 3 or 4 or 5. Because the water's so warm, I expect it'll intensify. I don't know how much yet. I would think after another 24 or 30 hours, we'll have a good idea what it's going to look like when it comes in. Usually when they're 24 or even 36 hours out, they can give you a pretty good indicator as to what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. Okay? So, you know, you got to see what happens. Is this going to impact the United States in any great way? The only way that would happen is if the storm intensified substantially and damaged the walls, the fences between Mexico and America, which I have no idea if that would happen. It could, but I don't even know if a 5 might do it. A 5, I believe, is 150 miles an hour or more. Is that going to happen? I have no idea. I'm just saying it could happen. I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. I'd be, oh, wow. But I don't know it's going to happen, you know? So we wait and we watch. So the ceasefire. So the Israelis on Friday, today's Saturday in Israel in the morning. It's the, what are we on? The 6th of July, I think. Let's check it. July 6th, it's 9:06 in the morning and my phone is going stupid crazy for some stupid reason. We had some missile attacks this morning. I assume they were from Hezbollah. I didn't check yet. It wasn't an extremely large amount. But I want to try to get you to understand, using Bible prophecy, what's not going to happen and what's going to happen, okay? So the head of the Mossad went to Qatar on Friday and they had negotiations, and he came back and he said he was, you know, words like, I'm encouraged, but there's still some gaps. Hamas is saying that if Israel accepts the peace proposal, I guess that it was theirs or the negotiators, that they would agree to it. So first we got to look at what's going on, okay? Israel is days, maybe a week, 10 days, something like that, away from finishing off Rafah. That's where the leaders of Hamas that are still alive are left. And that's their last storm cold to speak of. And the tunnels that go into Egypt, we think we destroyed all of them, or probably 98% of them, or something like that. I doubt there's any tunnels that we didn't detect yet. So the smuggling of weapons in from Egypt is finished and kaput, okay? Now, I have not read the terms of this ceasefire. For some reason, they're not making it public, which is a bad sign. Now, Netanyahu is facing 3 criminal persecutions, okay? The trials are ongoing, and he keeps telling the court he can't participate in the trials. So they have to hold, you know, put him in suspended animation until the wars are over and he is clear and has time, and then he could manage the trials. If you were a businessman and tried this, they'd tell you to go fly a kite, but because he's the prime minister, they let him get away with it. And this has been going on for years. So one has to understand that if the wars are over, Netanyahu's trial starts, and my guess is that by the way Netanyahu's so worried about it and the way the evidence appears to look, he's in serious jeopardy of getting convicted. And that brings a maximum of 16 years in jail, but normally they would probably give him 2 to 4 years. He'd probably be out in 2.5 years. But I don't know. There's a lot of people in the government and in the courts that want Netanyahu gone, dead, and buried. Not literally, but they want him out of politics forever and ever and ever. So they might not give him that. They might give him, 6 years or 10 years or something like that. So he's basically fighting for his life. He doesn't want to die in jail. Okay? So, being a psychotic like the rest of the S-Spot world leaders, he'll do anything to keep himself out of jail. He'll do anything. Would he sacrifice 5 million Israelis to stay out of jail? In my opinion, absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. Okay? He thinks he's a superior being through Satan and all this other stuff. Okay? Like the rest of them. So, yeah, he would. Okay? Now, he has to watch himself. Here's the intricacies in this. Okay? Hezbollah said, the leader of Hezbollah said, and he probably means it, that if Israel does, he didn't say withdraw from Gaza completely, he said a ceasefire in Gaza, Hezbollah will automatically, he didn't use that word, but he said Hezbollah will do a ceasefire also. He said we don't need any documents to guarantee that. He says as soon as they do a ceasefire, we will do a ceasefire. The Houthis did not come up with any comments. Okay? Nor did the militias in Iraq and Syria, nor did Iran. But Hezbollah did. Okay? So, if there is a ceasefire in Gaza, Lebanon, Hezbollah in Lebanon ceases fire also, which means 98% of the attacks on Israel have finished. Most of the political analysts, if not all of them in Israel, would state that if this happens, there'll be a vote of no confidence on Netanyahu, pronto danto, and he'll get thrown out of office. They are sick of this guy, but they voted him in. The people of Israel liked his form of government with what they call protexia, where you work for the party, you give money to the party, and then you get, jobs with the big companies and the government, and you get favors, and it's corruption. So a lot of the people in Israel have learned, why go to university? Why waste that time? Get active with Netanyahu's party, the Likud, and you got protexia, you'll get a good job. So you're a nincompoop without an education, and you get a job as a high-level manager of a big company, maybe the electric company, maybe a water company, maybe a local government. You're not going to get any meaningful job in any local government or any major corporation in Israel like highways, unless you're plugged in with the protexia. It is a despicable, lousy, rotten system that the people in Israel perpetuate because they can take unfair advantage of each other. This is consistent with taking advantage of the widows and the orphans and the strangers and the poor. They do all of that too. Okay? The system stinks. Stinks. Rotten to the core. Worse than anything we saw under King Saul or anything like that. Worse. Netanyahu is the worst and the worst king of Israel. Who else ran those you-know-what parades through Jerusalem but him? And he still does it. And then there's October 7th. I heard this guy, he's a YouTube speaker on a lot of channels. His name's Colonel McGregor. He's a military analyst. He doesn't fear God. He doesn't know the Bible. He just predicts things based on military analysis. And he's good at military analysis. He's very good. You see, the Satan bots can be majors and colonels, but there's a lot of people in the military that are majors and colonels that have abilities that are not Satan bots. They use these people. They never make general. They never get really in control of much. They're always tightly reined in by the Satan bots. But the S bots need them because they're nincompoops, incompetents themselves. So they all they know how to do is go to a meeting and look official and dress and make innuendos and tell people things that are pointed, and it's very difficult to understand what the jerk means. And when they're at a gathering at a cocktail party, they'll make a point never to be standing alone because it looks like they're not popular. They have the ways of the world, the things that unsaved people appreciate. That's what they're good at. Darkness. The outside of their cup is clean. They look good. But inside it's black and dirty and moldy and mildew and cockroaches crawling around in there. They're horrible people. Okay, so if there is a ceasefire with Gaza, Hezbollah stops, and then I would say within a matter of days, there'll be a vote of no confidence on Netanyahu. And a lot of the people that were with him are with him now because they don't want to change leadership during the war. Okay, so Colonel McGregor used these words. He said on October 7th, I listened to him, he said, I don't know why, but I believe October 7th was allowed to happen. I have the opinion that he's right. And they want an investigation on that. And if Netanyahu's out of office, his cronies are out, Gallant and a lot of the others. But the other, they're all cut from the same satanic cloth, and the other ones come in. I don't think they're going to prosecute Netanyahu for October 7th or something like that. But you see, the Supreme Court is after him. So they might, because he's trying to get rid of the Supreme Court and become King Bibi. So they might go after him for that. But for them to go after him, somebody would probably, like a group of people, let's say a group of people that have friends and family and relatives that were killed or taken hostage on October 7th, or their houses were destroyed, they could file a big lawsuit against Netanyahu. They could petition the Supreme Court to do things to him also. So the court can't initiate an action, but if people bring an action, they can respond to it. So Netanyahu's got that hanging over his head. Okay? So do I think Netanyahu's going to let this war stop? No, I don't. I don't think so. I think Netanyahu's trying the same thing as Biden. He's trying to emerge as some sort of war hero and win the hearts and minds of the people, and then he'll start with his judicial reform again, and hopefully he has the backing of the people to strip the power of the court. And what he needs to do is get the Knesset to pass a law that says that he's immune, like what the Supreme Court just gave Trump, that he's immune for anything he did when he was prime minister. If he gets that, he's done with it. But then he'll make sure the Supreme Court never rises again, because he knows they're after him. But he's very vindictive, so he wants to get him. Okay? Now, he's so far been stalling the drafting of the ultra-Orthodox. I haven't seen one ultra-Orthodox guy have to report for duty. And the courts are demanding that they start drafting 3,000. You see, that it's Netanyahu. He won't. He just gets to the point where he says, "The heck with them. I'll ignore them." The ultra-Orthodox consider themselves superior to us, and it's a farce. We don't go in the army, we go in the yeshivas and pray. First of all, they don't pray. If you think reading prayers out of a prayer book is prayer, you're not a believer, okay? And then they read out of the Bible as prayer, Psalms specifically. They just read the Psalms as if it's a prayer. That's not praying. What they do in the yeshivas is anything but praying. They don't know who the Messiah is. They say the Messiah, the ultra-Orthodox, is a bastard, a witch, not the Son of God, not a prophet, didn't rise from the dead. They tell the people if they bring a New Testament in their house, they put a curse on their house. They tell the people they can't pronounce God's name, Jehovah. You can't pronounce it. So instead they have them say Hashem, which means the name. I don't know who the heck they mean. It's like the church guys, when the pastors, they start praying to the Lord, and what Lord is that? Could it be Satan? Of course. To them, that's their Lord. Don't ever fall for that. Don't ever fall for the Creator. Father God, Jehovah in heaven, and his firstborn son, Yeshua HaMashiach. They don't use those words. They say Jesus. Who the heck is Jesus to them? There's no J in the Hebrew alphabet. His name could never be Jesus. Nor could Jehovah's name be Jehovah. There's no J. Joel's name, the prophet's not Joel, it's Joel. Who translated the Bible into English but the church world? The publishing houses need the church world. Otherwise, they don't sell books and they go out of business. So they publish stuff that's conducive to the church, not otherwise. It's a conspiracy, if you will. Let me look at the chat for a minute. I guess somebody's from China. That's interesting. Okay. So I don't think Netanyahu's in the mood for a ceasefire, but Biden might be. Biden might just be shining everybody on, and he's really trying to get a war going with Iran, and Satan would probably like to see Biden have Israel get seriously attacked by Hezbollah, the militias in Iraq and Syria, the Houthis, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, everything else, okay? So Biden could be playing that game, I don't know for sure, but Biden's rotten as the day's long, okay? So if Netanyahu comes back and says, yeah, we're going to withdraw all our troops out of Israel and leave Hamas intact, they'll run the political system, we'll have a ceasefire, Hezbollah will stop, and tourism will increase, and we could go back to playing the game of whoever dies with the most toys wins, which is his game. So, there'd be a cry to remove him from office immediately. But on the other hand, there's cries from the left wing to remove him from office immediately because he's not getting the hostages back. Look, if they have a substantial number of hostages, which I greatly doubt, I would say if they had 15 living hostages, it's a lot. 25 would be, super out of limit. I don't think it's It could be 6. It could be 2. It could be next to nothing. These people have been used as slaves. They put them in people's homes and they use them as slave labor in the home. I'm sure the women have been raped. Look, they just freed this woman hostage. Look, she's not going to get out there publicly and say, I got raped, every day. But that likely was the case. But she's not going to say that. She's going to try to get on with her life. Hard for me to imagine that the people kept her didn't rape her. Others have talked about being raped. They burned people alive, killed babies inside the womb, and they screamed genocide on Israel. Now they're trying to run up the flagpole. Some Israelis, I believe they were in the military down by the October 7th attack, and they took some Hamas people prisoner, and no help was coming. Help took 7, 8 hours, even 12 hours to come. Very suspicious, of course. And they shot them. They said, what are we going to do with them? Sit here with them and watch them, or go help the other people? So they killed them. Now they're getting run up the flagpole. Now sanctions are being put on the settlers in Israel for not behaving according to the standards of the heathen nations towards the Muslim, Arab, Palestinians living in the West Bank that are very aggressive and intimidating and provoking to them. So they're putting sanctions on them, and they're thinking of expanding sanctions now. Canada wants to do it. It's sick. Okay? All right? I don't think Netanyahu can just give up. Look, the reality of the thing is, if Hezbollah is left in Gaza to run the political, to rebuild themselves militaristically, okay, they will, I'm telling you, in a matter of maybe 5 or 10 days, they'll be attacking Israel again. It may not be but a few days. But they might have some brains, and they'll try to attack after they can get a substantial amount of missiles and other weapons. But that would mean we have to be completely out of Gaza so they can smuggle in from Egypt again. Egypt's role in this suicide, in this killing of Israel, is to provide a way to bring weapons into Gaza. That's their part that they play. Okay? Now, how can Israel stop Egypt from doing it if they're not inside Gaza? They can't. Egypt will say, oh, we're not going to do it. Yeah, my eye, you're not going to do it. Of course you're going to do it. Okay? I never saw any world leader of any country, of any religious persuasion, that's not a devout, dedicated, prolific liar. Never once have we ever in our lifetime seen such a leader. Ever. Okay? So they'll tell any lie they think they can get away with. What do they care? Okay? So they need to strip Gaza militaristically. I'm going to take a break and we'll go through this. What really needs to happen. Now, the hostage families and friends, all they want is the hostages back. They don't care. if you had a relative or close friends that was a hostage, even though they have no idea if the hostage is alive or dead, they want the hostages back above and beyond anything else because they're miserable. And that's understandable. Hamas in Gaza will want probably someplace between 30 and 100 terrorist prisoners in Israeli jails to be released for each hostage. They won't even tell us how many hostages they have, let alone their names. Why do we even think they have any at this point? The amount of hostages they have is something that they want to reveal after Israel withdraws. They want Israel completely out of Gaza. Then they're going to do a hostage exchange for terrorist prisoners, which may never happen. A real ceasefire is inconsistent with Bible prophecy because we're headed to the point where many nations are going to lay siege to Judah and Jerusalem. Okay? To lay siege to Jerusalem, tip of my finger is Jerusalem is surrounded by the West Bank on the north, the south, and the east. So the West Bank has to be overrun, which would happen through Jordan. The king of Jordan is in very, very weak position there. So, is there a chance there could be a temporary ceasefire? That Gaza will come up, or Hamas and Gaza will come up with some sort of terms for a temporary ceasefire? Which is a grade A stupid move because they're just going to rebuild as best they can. They kick around 6 weeks and then the war starts up again. Now, if they shoot any rockets or missiles prior to the 6-week period being over, Israel can attack them all over again. But Biden won't let that happen. Let's say Hamas launches 16 missiles during the ceasefire. And Biden's people call on the phone, don't you do anything, don't you do anything. We're a bunch of stinking dirty Jews. They don't care about 16 missiles hitting us or 1,600 missiles hitting us. Okay? But Biden does want to get Iran. Let's say there was a ceasefire. Hezbollah stops, Hamas stops. What are the Houthis going to do? Are they going to stop? Maybe. But what's happened? Iran and her proxies have learned they can break the back of the West, America and her allies in Europe and all that. And they're going to continue demands. Immediately, they're going to want a Palestinian state, which means the West Bank and Jerusalem goes to the Muslims. Now, Satan will be happy with this because then there's no temple. Satan knows there's going to be another temple, okay? Then there would be no temple again because Jerusalem would be occupied by Muslims that wouldn't allow it, okay? That's why you read in Zechariah 12, the two witnesses in verse 6 specifically, which the church never teaches, will burn them up on the right hand and the left when they're in the siege against Jerusalem. Okay. So the Israelis indicated we still have some gaps before we could have a ceasefire. So these gaps that they're talking about are probably insurmountable. So I don't see it. Although I have to leave room that you could have a temporary ceasefire for a few days that would blow up and make things worse. What's in it for Biden is this. If he does nothing, Iran backed by Russia and China and North Korea, has persuaded, I'm sure by threat, behind the scenes, Saudi Arabia to stop taking the US dollar and the euro for oil. And they will spread that too as soon as America and Israel show weakness with a ceasefire like that. Then they'll get the UAE to do it, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Jordan, and then they'll start reducing oil production. Only the friends of these countries, the Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea, are going to be able to even get a sufficient amount of oil. And they'll cut the oil production 10% here, 10% there, and prices keep going up until they break the back of the West, which the West was doing to them with sanctions. So if Biden does nothing to Iran, he loses control of the Middle East oil and the Middle East. And the consequences for Europe and America would be nothing short of a Great Depression of the 1930s, but probably 10 times worse. People would not be able to afford to drive to work. People wouldn't be able to get home heating oil anymore. I mean, what are they going to do? Start costing them $1,100 a month, $900 a month to heat their house in the winter? Where are they getting the money? Okay? This thing started with let's get Israel mad, get Israel to start these wars, and then Iran will join in eventually, and it'll be pretty bad for Israel. We'll force a two-state solution somehow, and and then Biden has all his grounds to attack Iran. You see, Iran has lost probably 85-90% of Hamas. If Israel goes into Lebanon's going to be highly ineffective. You see these missile launches that are buried in a pit in the ground, like a large grave site, okay? And they push a button and a lid comes off this missile launcher pit, and a launcher comes out with 4 or 6 missiles that are about this much around. These are short-range junky missiles that maybe go somewhere between 8 and 12 miles. They're not aimable. They don't use radar. They're terrorist weapons. Now, when Israel shoves Iran back further, we got a 3-mile dead zone, and that needs to probably be 10 miles or something like that at least. Although they're shooting for the Litani River, which is 17 to 18 miles, depending where in the river you measure, because it meanders, they're going to not be able to use these weapons. They don't put the big missiles in there normally. They could, but it's a little tricky because it's a sophisticated missile launcher that's aimable, and it needs radar, and there's no radar, so it has to be a non-ballistic missile. Radar has to be above ground, and then it's a giveaway. So it's just a big ballistic missile with a greater range, but you can't aim it. And the other problem when you in a pit, the pit is maybe 15 feet long, with a big missile launcher, and I don't know, 4 or 5 feet wide, and it goes down, 6-7 feet. So if you pick the missile launcher, you gain an elevation, but you're not going to be able to go left and right with the thing because you're going to hit the wall of the pit. So all you can do is control straight line shooting. It's, they launch one sophisticated missile and we get the GPS coordinates, and then along come the bombs, and that's it. So they get one shot and that's it. So the real good missiles are on trucks, like a cab for a 40-foot trailer, and a lowboy trailer which has a launcher on it and has the electronics, the radar, generators, and they could get one off, and then we blow it up, and they lose their missile launcher. So it doesn't matter if they got 250,000 missiles or 5 million missiles, it's the amount of missile launchers that they have to have. And if you shove them back, these short range junky missiles are of no effect. So there's a big push from Iran to try to save Hamas and keep them active in Gaza. If the war goes, Israel takes out Hezbollah and, of course, finishes off Hamas. Okay? Now, the only satellite that Iran has left is the Houthis in Yemen, and they got some militias in Iraq and Syria. And Iraq is a undercover satellite state of Iran, but not 101%, you know. So Iran loses its threat level. So I'm not so sure we're going to see a ceasefire at all, okay? Or if we do, it's a temporary one that will get quickly broken, and the siege will go on. Why haven't all these militias in Iraq and Syria and Pakistan and all these other places gone to Lebanon already? If they went to Lebanon and the ranks of Hezbollah went up to 125 or 150,000, the threat of a ground invasion would be tremendously enhanced, and the fear placed on Israel would be higher. So why haven't they done this? Number one, they may never do it. They may just be saying this to drive Hezbollah on into this suicide war. Okay? Number two, they're afraid if they in fact do go, they're just going to get destroyed. And the wild card is nobody really knows what America's going to do. These two amphibious carriers are going to have escort vessels, which are destroyers and missile cruisers, so they'll be probably... And they'll have submarines there too, I'm pretty sure. It might be a low of 4 destroyers and missile carriers, a high of 6 or 8. And they have missile launch capability. And the planes that are on the amphibious carriers are usually around the number 10. They can have about 10 planes vertical takeoff, which are F-35s, stealth. So between the two of them, they got 20 planes. I mean, Hezbollah is not Russia, okay? So they could really lay on the bombing. Plus, Americans can bring jets in from the immediate areas in the Middle East and long-range bombers from Europe and America. And bomb Iran, you know, avidly. Iran's going to get it, and Hezbollah, Lebanon's going to get it, and the Palestinians already got it. It would be worse, and Syria's going to get it. Yemen's going to get it. Saudi's going to catch some of it. Even if there is a ceasefire, they may not stop. Just because they said they'll stop doesn't mean they'll stop. They'll push for something else. They got weakness. They won. They'll say, well, we're not stopping here. We want all the terrorists out of prison, and we want to stop the war. We want all, we want Israel demilitarized. Who knows what? They'll want the West Bank. The prisoners out of Israel, the terrorist prisoners, is a good thing for them because they'll all come to Gaza and fight, but it's not that important. Okay. Hey, I show speed. Please stop spamming the chat. You're just sitting there putting inches of posts up that don't really say anything for the most part. So please knock it off, okay? You're just filling the chat up for some reason. I don't know what that reason is, but please stop it, okay? If you got something to say it. But just making entries is silly. So the fighting back and forth with Hezbollah and Israel is still going on. Biden is still trying to control us. Israel might be waiting to finish off Rafah before they get into Lebanon. And they might be waiting for weapons from America that are not being talked about publicly, or they might be waiting for more of the Navy ships to get down here. We heard that the Gerald Ford's going to be in the area, the Theodore Roosevelt, and we got the Eisenhower here. Theodore Roosevelt's supposed to go into the Red Sea. Trump's now, gone to Putin, and, he's saying that if he wins the election in November, he's going to make a peace plan with Putin before January 20th that will go into effect the day he gets sworn in. He'll sign it, and that's that. Well, that means he leans on Zelensky. So basically what Trump is going to do is say, there's no more weapons coming to you, Zelensky, it's over. Give Putin a piece of Ukraine and you're around to play again another day. If you don't, that's your choice. Putin's going to wipe you out. We're out of the game. And then he'll tell NATO if they don't want to drop out, he'll drop out of NATO or something like that. So then Zelensky gives up a good-sized hunk of Ukraine to Russia and that war stops. Maybe. Prophetically, you don't have enough time for this, but it was a brilliant move on Trump to start talking like that. And Putin responded and said he takes this seriously. So I'm going to go bring the dogs in now because I'm a little worried it's getting too hot out there. It'll be I don't know, 2-3 minutes or something. It'll be pretty quick. I'll be right back. Have a cup of coffee or something. Bueller's home, okay? Bueller's coming in, okay? Go home, y'all. Come on, go home. Yeah, it wasn't that hot out there yet, but I don't want to get them hot. All right. So why is this not going to work with Bible prophecy is what we need to cover next. And it's not that hard to do. Okay. The next war on Israel is Zechariah 12. Now, some of you think Gog and Magog is the next war. Unfortunately, you're listening to the churches. Gog and Magog is not only found in Ezekiel 38-39. It's also the entire book of Joel. It's also Zechariah 14. It's also Ezekiel verses 8 through 11. And it's referred to as the great day of the Lord. There's a falling away of Israel. How's Israel falling away? They already fell away. They're not even all here. It says in Ezekiel 38 that we're going to be living at peace and at rest, without bars, without walls, with cattle, gold, and silver, and they come to take a great spoil. If you think that describes the Israel today, boy, you've been deceived. The book of Joel shows us there's already a temple and a priesthood operating when this happens. How? There's nothing here now like that. Will change shortly, but it's not here now. So get off of Gog and Magog, the great day of the Lord. This is Jacob's trouble from Jeremiah 30. It's Zechariah 12. Great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Does 2/3 of Israel get cut off? Yes, they do. That's found in Zechariah 13, 8, and 9. It should be read with Ezekiel 34. It should be read with Malachi 3 and 4. These are things the churches don't teach you. Do they know them? Yeah, they know them. They don't want you to know them. So it says in Zechariah 12:1, the burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling. Now, the trembling means you're shaking, you're so scared. It's surrounded, as you'll see. Unto all the people, but it's going to be fearful to those that are surrounding it. Unto all the people in that day. Remember, this is a day. It keeps saying, as you'll see, that day, which is the day of vengeance. Now, the church doesn't teach this either, so I have to, educate the people about the day of vengeance so they don't understand. They miss it. Okay? So, where do you see the day of vengeance? Isaiah 34, verse 8, I believe it's Isaiah. It's in verse 8. It reads like this: for it is the day. So is the day of vengeance a year or a day? It's a day. The Hebrew word is yom. It's like 24-hour day, a day of the Lord's vengeance. Now, what is the word for vengeance? Nakam. Strong's number 5359. Whoops, where this thing goes moving on me. Stop moving. Okay. Vengeance 5359. Strong's puts it into English better than the others usually do. And it means avenged, revenge, it's vengeance. And the year of recompenses. Now, people don't even know that there's a year of recompenses in the church. When they ever teach it, they don't teach it. What does recompenses mean? 7966, Strong's number, Shalim. Retribution. Let's see how Strong's puts it into English. Retribution, recompense, reward. In English, street talk would be payback. Okay? Retribution's a payback. All right? For the controversy of Zion. They don't want God to make Israel the head of the nations over the heathen nations, and they want to keep the land and they want to keep God out. What, 163 members of the UN recognize the Palestinian state to some degree? They think because they get together and vote, they could override God. Okay? So the day of vengeance is associated with the year of recompenses. It's the day of the Lord's vengeance, the year of recompenses. And the word for year is Shana, which is the year. It means a year. It doesn't mean a century, a millennium. It means a year. So the day of vengeance is in the year of recompenses. Now, let's go to Isaiah 63. I'm going to keep this simplistic, okay? Isaiah 63. What verse? It's at the top. Isaiah 63:4. For the day of vengeance, mine heart. Okay, now let's break this down into Hebrew so we know what it really says. Because it's impossible to translate the Bible unless you have correct prophecy, because you're going to keep making mistakes. So it says for. Let's check the word for. Key. That for. We'll go with for. Yom, day, vengeance. And then it says, in my heart. It doesn't say that. It says lev, and that means heart. So what's it really saying so far? For day, vengeance, heart. And then it says, and the year. Well, it doesn't say that in the Hebrew. It just says Shana, year. So let's read it again from the beginning. For day, vengeance, heart, year. What year is this? Of redeemed. Now, it's come. Now, the word for redeemed would really bring us to the year of redemption. And the word is Gaal, or Gal. You could say to act as kinsman, to do the part of next of kin, act as a kinsman redeemer, which happens in the year of redemption. But let's go to Strong's and see how he flips it to English. To be the next of kin and as such to buy back a relative's property, marry his widow, etc. At all avenge. See, God said that we sold ourselves without money, so he's going to redeem us without money. He gets our land back for us, the land that our fathers had in this cycle that we're going into, okay? And the year, so it's saying Shana, redeemed, and then it says, is come, which the word is bow, and no, it come, you could say come, okay? So it's very clear that the day of vengeance here is depicted in the year of redemption. Year of redeemed is the year of redemption. It's the same thing. I mean, the meaning's the same, not the literalization, but the meaning. So the day of vengeance is in both years. So the way I interpret this is that if this is the year of recompenses which precedes, and this is the year of redemption, and they both have the day of vengeance in it, you have to have an overlap. The overlap could be that day. The day of vengeance is most likely, as I'll show you, the end of the year of recompenses and the beginning of the year of redemption. Okay? Now I could give you more scriptures and we could make this more complicated, but this is what it is. It doesn't change this, okay? It's rather inescapable, okay? So I think I'm in Zechariah 12. Where was I? 2 or 3? So 2 is who make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about when they shall be in the siege. The siege is surrounding, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. As I told you, you have to get this down. The tip of my finger is Jerusalem. This is the West Bank. It surrounds Jerusalem on the north, the south, and the east. So to lay siege against Jerusalem, they could maybe do it from Jordan without entering the West Bank, but it could apply, but it applies better when they move into the West Bank, which they've been trying to knock the fences down from Jordan and go in, and the military in Jordan is stopping them, and that could stop, and they could get in. That could happen at any minute. And in that day, it's a day. The day of vengeance and the beginning of the year of redemption. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth or the land of Israel be gathered together against it. So if you're cut in pieces, you're dead. In that day, again, it's a day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. Now, when he opens his eyes upon the house of Judah, that's a really good thing. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Jehovah of armies, their God. It doesn't exactly say that. It says the inhabitants Jerusalem, strength, Jehovah of armies, Elohim. So they're strong. It's saying they're strong in and through God, not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, this sort of thing. And that day, again, it keeps saying, that day will I make the governors of, it doesn't mean governors, it's the chiefs or the leaders, it's the 2 witnesses who are prophets. God runs Israel again with judges, okay? The church never teaches this, of course. And where do you find this? You find it in Isaiah 1. Oh. verse 24. Therefore saith saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, the mighty one of Israel. Gee, he didn't say the mighty one of the churches, did he? Ah, I will ease me of my adversaries. Now, what does the word ease mean? 5162, Nacham. Let's get it from Strong's, how he puts it in English. Revenge, or perhaps comfort himself by getting rid of them, okay? I will ease me of my enemies means he gets rid of them so he doesn't have to deal with it. And avenge me of mine enemies. There you see it, okay? Now, they don't come up to heaven, and, try to shoot at Jehovah's throne and stuff like that. That's absurd. They attack him here by going after his people so he can't proceed with prophecy. That's what they want. And they want Satan to continue ruling the world because they don't know any better, like children. And I will turn my hand upon thee and purely purge away thy dross and take away all thy tin. Well, we see this in Malachi 3 with Elijah training the Levites. And I will restore thy judges as at the first. The two judges at the first were Moses and Aaron. They were prophets. They were judges. To be a judge, you got to be a prophet. Revelation 11 tells us the two witnesses are prophets. And thy counselors as at the beginning. That's the 70 that Moses and Aaron had that gets brought back. Afterward, thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. So God's going to run Israel with the judges very shortly. Now, some of you know me and believe this, and some of you don't. You don't know me, and I can understand you wouldn't believe it. But on or around August 1st, give or take a few days, last year, 2023, God showed me that he said, this is the year of recompenses, so we were in it. He didn't tell me necessarily that was the day it started. He said we were in it. So I don't know when it started, so I don't know the day it'll finish, but we're in it. I expect it'll be over within the first few days of August at the latest. Okay. So we'll go back to Zechariah 12. Now we're in verse 6, Zechariah 12:6. In that day will I make the governors of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left. Now, does that sound like the two witnesses with fire coming out of their mouth? If it's not them, who the heck is it? It's the two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John. Apostle John was told, you must prophesy again to many people in the book of Revelation. When he was standing there, Yeshua said, there be some, and it doesn't mean some, it's like someone, okay? Standing here that shall not taste of death until they see the kingdom of God. So he's still alive. He's in Israel. Oh, you're crazy, Moshe. Well, people lived almost 1,000 years before the flood. Why are you saying I'm crazy? How else could he be alive if the Lord didn't give him this everlasting life, which is not immortality? You could still die, but you have a very, very long life, and we'll all have that, and I'll explain that to you too shortly. With me, where did it go? I'm on 6, right? Okay. And then it says, burn them up, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place. It really doesn't say that. It says that Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall Jehovah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. So the feeble, the old people that don't stand up good and don't walk good, they're going to be like David, who killed Goliath and killed a lion and a bear. And the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. That was Michael, the glory God of Israel, that was with the children of Israel in the wilderness. And he killed about 150,000 in one day. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the heathen that come against Jerusalem. So when it says sliced and diced, cut in pieces, lacerated, they get killed. Now listen to this. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplications. So that means that they have the Holy Spirit poured out on them. And that means they're believers. And then it goes on, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Well, that's when they stuck a spear, when he was hanging on the tree, they stuck a spear in his side and blood and water came out. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. They clearly see Yeshua. And then it goes on, all the families in Israel will mourn for him. They're under terrible conviction because as believers, when the Holy Spirit is poured out on them, the veil is taken off their eyes. Their eyes are no longer stopped up. Their ear closed. Their ears are no longer stopped up. So they realize the truth of the gospel because God closed their eyes and ears and the veil comes off. Now they realize what they were doing, blaspheming Yeshua and all that. So they're mad at themselves, so they mourn. All the families that are in Israel do this. So they all are redeemed. Of course, it's the beginning of the year of redemption. And I believe it happens to all the Israelites around the world. And I believe it happens to all the true believers around the world all at the same time. Because if you're a true believer, you're in Israel. It's absurd to say you're in the church, not Israel. Yeshua refers to you, to the believers, as his brethren. So how could you be his brethren and not be in Israel? It's stupid, I think. So what happens when you're a believer and you see Yeshua? Well, you got to read this with John 6:40. Now, either you believe it or you don't. If you're going to believe the church, you're going to be spending eternity with the pastors of the church, and that's a bad thing. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son, well, they see him, they look upon him, and believeth on him, may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The everlasting life comes right then and there. So what in the world is he talking about? Well, without spending a tremendous amount of time, we go to Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man. Okay. Okay. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Now that's not him coming to earth. He appears in the clouds. It says, like the lightning from the east to the west, seated on the right hand of power, which is his Father Jehovah. See, in Psalms 110:1, it says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. He appears in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power, because his enemies have not yet been made his footstool. So he's still at the right hand of God. This is not the second coming to earth. In the second coming in Revelation 19, Yeshua's on a white horse. He's not coming with Jehovah, for starters. He's not appearing seated at the right hand of power. He's on a horse with a garment stained with red, like from the winepress, and a double-edged sword comes out of his mouth, which allegorically is the word of God. And he appears with millions of angels on their white horses with swords. That's not what we're seeing here. And they come down to earth, and the beast and the false prophet get flipped into the lake of fire. Where's the beast and the false prophet right now? They're not here. And the Satan goes into the pit. Come on. Don't let the church deceive you. That's their game. And all the tribes of the earth, it doesn't say that. It says all the Mishbucha, all the tribes of Haaretz, the land of Israel, mourn. Well, we just read that in Zechariah 12. It's the same event. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. That's the explanation for the old people fighting like David and the house of David fighting like Michael, the angel of the Lord, because we receive this everlasting life when we see Yeshua, according to John 6:40, 1 John 3:2. When you see him, you will be like him. You're still going to die, because when you get to New Jerusalem and you eat from the tree of life and drink from the water of life, then you will no longer die. It says there's no death in New Jerusalem. Just seeing him in the clouds is going to give you long life. My people's days will be like that of a tree. A child shall die 100 years old. You've read those scriptures, but you couldn't put them together, could you? But now you can. I'll be right back. Now, a siege is not an invasion. The Romans would use the word siege, going back to the Old English or something, and they would surround a city or a country, and they would shoot at it. Today they do that already. They're laying siege on us from Hamas and Gaza and Lebanon, and to a small extent from Iraq and Syria, although Iraq's not really on our border, and the Houthis are not really on our border. But what's missing is Edom, which is probably northwest Saudi Arabia, near a lot, kind of, and Jordan is missing. Turkey is not on our border, neither is Iraq, neither is Iran. So they should also push into the West Bank, I think. It's a better explanation. Okay. Now, after the siege is destroyed, Israel may still be fighting to take back the land that our fathers gave us. Israel's original redemption in Egypt was Passover. And, they were fighting after that. We may fight too. It indicates we will. When you read about, we're going to be like David, and the house of David will be like the warrior God of Israel, the angel of the Lord. So, we're going to be like that. So we'll be fighting, and that's when we're going to get the land back. God's not giving them Gaza. Why? And Lebanon, and of course we get Syria back too with Iraq. Parts of Iraq, and I believe we'll also possibly get Turkey. I'm not sure on that one, but we'll definitely get probably way up into Lebanon, about 150 miles. He's not going to give us the land back, because everybody's going to say we got it back through the military, the IDF. That's kind of the Church of Israel in a way. So God's going to probably destroy the military. So I'm not sure how much damage we're going to take from Hezbollah, but it could be pretty substantial. When we see the two witnesses burning up the enemies, we don't see the government of Israel, we don't see Netanyahu, we don't see the Knesset, we don't see the military, and we see the people are scared. So you got to read this with Jeremiah 30, which is Jacob's trouble. And then you get more pictures, and then you start seeing the absurdity of this ceasefire. So let me look at the chat, and then we'll go to Jeremiah 30, which the church never really teaches. Okay, so we go to Jeremiah, or Yeremahu in Hebrew. Jeremiah 30. And this is your birth pangs and the birth of a nation in a day. When the UN made Israel on May 15th, that was not the birth of a nation in a day. You think Scripture's fulfilled when a bunch of heathen nations do it? Come on. It's when Israel was redeemed to God. The word that came to Jeremiah from, I won't pronounce the Hebrew for it, which is Jeremiah, or Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I think, is pretty okay to do it. Jeremiah, but we'll say Jeremiah, from Jehovah, saying, Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. It could be a scroll. It's a safer. In English, you'd say S-E-P-H-E-R, safer. It could be a scroll or a book. Gutenberg Press wasn't yet around, so it's probably a scroll. Okay. For lo, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith Jehovah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. So here he says he gave to the fathers, so it doesn't. In other places he says the land that the fathers had. So maybe we go all the way up into Turkey, maybe not, I'm not sure on that. Turkey's the land of Hittites, and it might be that, I don't know. Yemen is actually Sheba, like Queen of Sheba, and these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling and of fear, and not of peace. Now, is this pertaining to the Israelites, or is this pertaining to the enemy? Good question. Back to Zechariah 12. Behold, verse 2, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people. Well, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say unto. There's a word for unto, and that's not it. It says all, which is call. People, which is it's the correct word for people. So it's saying the trembling word, which is ra'al, so it's actually not a cup, it's a basin, a much larger container. So many people could drink out of it at the same time, kind of like a horse trough or bigger even. Unto all the people round about. Okay, so it's not unto, it's trembling all people, and the word for roundabout is sabib, and it's pretty much surrounding or roundabout. Around, so around, when they shall be, so the people isn't, okay, it says people round about or around, and then they make the words when they shall be. Well, there's only one Hebrew word, hayah, to be, so it's not such a bad translation, to be, and then it says the siege, which is different than the word for roundabout. The siege word is matzor, in its Strong's number 4692, and Strong's puts it into English hemming in, mound of a besiege, a siege, distress, a fastness, besieged, bulwark, defense, fenced fortress, stronghold. So it has the connotation of, let's see where this word was used elsewhere. That might be helpful. It's used 25 times. Can't see the In Deuteronomy 20:19, let's read it. Thou shalt besiege a city, when thou shalt besiege a city a long time in making war against it to take it, thou shalt not destroy the trees thereof by forcing an axe against them, for thou mayest eat of them, and thou shalt not cut them down. For the tree of the field is man's life, to employ them in the siege. See, that's a pretty good way of putting it, and it's the same word. I think it's 4692. Yeah, and that's absolutely talking about what I'm saying. So Lebanon's not invading us. There is a siege from the north, Hamas from the southwest, so forth. Probably Egypt will join in, but that might come later. Okay. So let's go back to Jeremiah 30. So it seems like we're on the same page there. So he's talking about bringing the captivity. So the 10 so-called lost tribes will be coming back to Israel, and we get the land. Okay. And then in verse 4 of Jeremiah 30, and these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, and it says trembling in Zephaniah 12, of fear and not of peace. Ask you now, and now we're hearing this voice today. Oh, Pakistan's going to invade, the militias from Iraq and Syria, from the Houthis, and from everybody, Iran, and all that, okay? A voice of trembling of fear and not of peace. Ask you now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Now, I think this is the Israelites. Although we read in other places that the enemy will also be like a woman in travail with the pains. But I think God is making a play here of a woman in travail. Travail is the actual birthing process, which comes after the birth pangs. Birth pangs are going to occur during the 9 months, probably not until months 2 or 3 or something. But it's for a long period of several months. And the actual giving birth is hours. 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, whatever. It's hours, not days or weeks or months. So it's much shorter, the birth period. As a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. So of course it's the birth of a nation in a day. He's making them appeal like they're going to give into birth. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved out of it. Those that are going to go into this Jacob's trouble don't get killed. They get saved out of it. They come out fighting like David, like the angel of the Lord. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah of armies, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck. Now, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers. Bonds could be treaties or something like that, ties, relationships with other countries. And strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. So this is referencing the yoke from the foreigners like Biden, the UK, the UN, and the International Court of Justice, all this nonsense, okay? We no longer have to listen to them because we've received everlasting life. But they shall serve Jehovah Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Now, that could be referencing the anointed prince in the next temple. Read Ezekiel 45 if you don't believe me. Who would be from the house of David, because David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Yaakov, saith Jehovah, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, that's the next great Exodus, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, same thing. And Yaakov shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. There's your everlasting life. Probably will be like a bunch of Samsons. I'm serious. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. To save thee. And the word for save is Yasha, to Yasha. That's the root of Yeshua. It really should be read salvation thee. That's the year of redemption. They know who Yeshua is. Though I make a full end of all nations, it really should be read Goyim, heathen nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. Churches, not a single church I ever heard talks about this. All the nations he scattered the Israelites into over the centuries, that's 125 nations as the UN reckons them. Now, you know, maybe you're thinking that this is just appearing here and it's, you know, something just out of context, but let's read Jeremiah 46:28. Fear thou not, O Yaakov, my servant, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, for I will make a full end of all the nations, all the heathen nations. Whither I have scattered thee, I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure, and yet will I not leave thee wholly unpunished. He's not going to get rid of all of us. He's not going to make a full end of us. But what is he going to do? Zechariah 13:8, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, call Haaretz, the land of Israel, saith Jehovah, 2 parts or 2/3 shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Two-thirds get cut off, and the other 1/3 get raised up. That never happened. The 1/3 being raised up, forget about it. It never happened yet. It will happen. That's Jeremiah 30. And this is consistent with Ezekiel 34, where the bad shepherds get cut off and the big fat cattle, which is the rich people, get cut off. You should be enraged at the church for not teaching you this. understand how many people are going to freak out when it happens? What's Satan planning on doing? Probably telling him it was the rapture, that these people come raptured. I don't know what Satan plans on telling him. Satan's a loser. Satan should have a tattoo on his knuckles that says "Born to Lose." Because he wasn't born to lose. He made himself a loser, I should say. Just say, "I am a loser," you know. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves again. This is the foreign yoke. And then we go on, and so in verse 11 it says, "For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee, though I make a full end of all the heathen, the goyim, whither I have scattered thee. Yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruise is incurable, thy wound is grievous, there is none to plead thy cause." Okay. Now let's see this manifest again in Malachi 4, verse 1. "For behold, the day cometh," that's Jacob's trouble, Zechariah 12. That Ezekiel 38:39 is not a day, it's a long period of time. Okay. "The day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name," so you have to be a believer to fear his name, I would say, "shall the Son, Shemesh, S-U-N, of righteousness arise with healing in his extremities." Well, the extremities, the word is kanaf, it's the borders of the garments. They had like robe-like garments. All the borders going down here and then here and the bottom had the tassel on with the blue thread that sits it. Not the way the rabbis do it today. They had it all around the outer borders of the edges of the garments. Okay? Got it? So, the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years grabbed Yeshua's tassels and got healed. So, this is what this is basically explaining to you. Of course, it was written before the New Testament because Jehovah knows the end from the beginning. Unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. Healing. Okay, the word for healing is marpe. It means a health or a cure. Or deliverance, healing. Arise with healing in his wings, and you in his extremities, the kanaf, the borders, and you shall go forth and frolic about like calves of the stall. So you're going to be like baby calves. This is the Son of Right. It's Yeshua, the bright and morning star. He appears where the sun is, in the clouds, and you see him, and you become changed. You have everlasting life. Of course, he pours the Spirit out on the Israelites first in Zechariah 12:10. So then John 6:40 works. Those that believe and look upon him shall have everlasting life. And here's the manifestation of it. You're young again. You're like, probably 21, 23 years old at your peak. And you start jumping around like a baby calf does when it gets out of the stall. Because you're going to be like crazy energy. It says even the children get tired when they run, but you won't. You can walk forever. Keep walking. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith Jehovah of hosts. So it's the day again. Then it says, remember you the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and the judgments. So that is the same law that the church says is dead and gone. Behold, I will send you Eliah or Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Now, if we go to the previous chapter, we read about Elijah there. Behold, Malachi 3:1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. Okay? And, who's the Word made flesh? Yeshua. Elijah's going to prepare the way for Yeshua to come down to earth. Okay? And Jehovah whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Not Jehovah, it's Adonai. It's the glory of God of Israel that will be in the next temple. He suddenly comes to his temple. So the temple's here before him. Even the messenger of the covenant whom you delighted. That's Elijah, because it said that he'll come and teach the Jews Torah, and he will, starting with who the Messiah is. Even the messenger of the covenant whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of armies, who may abide the day of his coming. And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap. That's Elijah. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, this means the blessings of the law are now on Israel. The blessings of the law, you could read that in Deuteronomy 28 to the end of Deuteronomy, and you'll see that your enemies flee away from you and you get great victories and all this stuff. Blessed shall you be coming and going, So that would account for the great victory that Israel has through the two witnesses in Zechariah 12. So Malachi 3 could conceivably come before. It doesn't have to, but it makes some sense that it comes before. Okay? Again, this is foreign to the church, because to them the law is dead. If the law is dead, the blessings of the law have no bearing. They're wrong. Yeshua said, don't think that I came to destroy the law but to and the prophets, but to fulfill. For and then in the next verse it says, as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. Well, the church also changes the Sabbath incorrectly, and they say the law is done away with. You should be very angry at these people in the churches and cry out against them to the Lord for what they've done to you. Not stick up for these morons. These pastors and the elders and the church witches are going to get a horrific punishment. They try to drag people down to the lake of fire that are trying to serve Jehovah and lead them astray. So, back to Elijah for a minute. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. So, where do we read this? Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Jehovah, 2 parts shall therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein, and I will bring the third part through the fire and refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Now you got a good sense of the timing of the 2 witnesses, of the 2/3 getting cut off. And the last verse in Malachi says, and he, speaking of Elijah, shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. So now you know more than all the heads of all the seminaries combined together. Because they're not of God, they're not believers. People are greatly deceived today. They don't know what's going to happen. They're greatly deceived. All the nations that he scattered the Israelites into are going to be destroyed very shortly. I'll be right back. Some of this destruction will be by the door, by the sword. Oh, come on, you're tripping me. You're blocking me. Talking to the dogs. Some of this destruction is going to be from war. Some of this destruction is going to be from the Lord, I imagine. And not all the people are going to get killed, but a lot will. The Muslim terrorist states are all set to have a victory against Israel. Guess what? They're wrong. How many people believe that? Not many. They don't really believe God. See, here's one of the kingpins to the scriptures that the people don't understand because the church will never teach it to them, and they don't study the Bible for themselves. Hosea 6:1-2. Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn and he will heal us. He hath smitten and he will bind us up. After 2 days, now you got to understand this punishment was not for 48 hours. Peter tells us 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So you don't read this as 48 hours, you read this as 2,000 years. Will he revive us? And that means bring to life. That's the everlasting life. It's not rising from the dead. Although the dry bones do rise from the dead, so it does have applicability to them. In the third day, he will raise us up and we shall live in his sight. The third day is the millennium, and you live in New Jerusalem within his sight. Yeshua's sight. Yeshua is there enthroned, and the glory of God of Israel is sitting there, Yeshua enthroned also. The both of them there. Now, that's in Revelation 21. So this 2,000-year punishment is up. We're in the year of recompenses. Look around here. We haven't hit the day of vengeance yet. The Lord has shortened the time for the sake of the elect, the remnants. Now, some of this is going to carry over into the year of redemption in terms of us fighting and getting the land back. We're not going to get the land back during the year of recompenses. It's redemption when we get our inheritance back. And that hasn't started yet, but very soon. Recompenses is now he's paying the nations back for what they did to Israel. Gaza is a ruinous heap, I'm telling you. The streets are gone. Probably 80-90% of the buildings are damaged and destroyed. The stores, the government offices, the water pipes, the sewage pipes, the phone lines, gas, nothing's correct over there. I don't think you could drive cars around on most of those streets. They're all chopped up with concrete blocks flying all over the place. Collapsed buildings. And Hamas is running around making believe they won. Well, if you won, what did you win? The game they're playing now is let's get all the Shiite Muslim terrorist-oriented groups in the Middle East all agree to go kill Israel, so we'll make Israel just suck it up and leave Gaza and Hamas alone. Hasn't worked yet. Don't think it's going to work. It might temporarily for a few days or something, but it's not going to really work. Prophecy wouldn't be fulfilled. Well, it's hard to believe that all the nations he scattered the Israelites into are going to get it. But that's a year of recompenses type event, not a year of redemption event. It could be, though, because then when they're destroyed, well, that's all over the world. That has nothing to do with our land. So it's probably a recompenses event. He's paying them back for the way they treated the Israelites over the years. Some are going to say, oh, we're in the church, we're cool, we're okay. Okay. Let's take a quick look at who's okay and who's not okay. Galatians 5:19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, or fornication, or uncleanness. They don't know what that is. Lasciviousness, no, that's like porn, pole dancing, strippers, you know, that kind of thing. Idolatry, they don't really understand that. It's ready to get rid of the cross. Witchcraft, hatred, variance. What is variance? They vary in their beliefs. They're not all one in the apostles' doctrine. No, they vary. What are you talking about, Moshe? Well, how about pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, spritz baptism, immersion baptism, pray in tongues, don't pray in tongues, house church, building church. You got it? That's variance. Pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, that's variance. Okay? Emulations, wrath, strife, seditions. Seditions is a word that means divisions. Some say they were the Paula, some say they were Cephas. That's a division. Some say they're Baptists, some say they're Lutherans, Assemblies of God, Foursquare, Presbyterian, Catholic. That's a sedition or a division. Okay. Heresies, that's like variance and seditions, it's related. Envyings, murders, drunkenness. So these are sins that are equated with murder. Reveling and such like of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in times past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, you're going to say, oh no, doesn't mean, and now you're calling Yeshua a liar. You're calling the Word of God a liar. If you go to these denominations, that's it. Or God's a liar, and God's not a liar. You're a liar. You don't want to own up to it, it's up to you. I can't make you do anything. I can lead you to the water, which I just did, but I can't make you drink. think going to the church is your answer? I don't think so. Matthew 7. Matthew 7:21. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. Well, what does the church teach you? Oh, if you know who Yeshua is, you're saved. You don't have to have works. What did Yeshua say? Faith without works is dead. What does the church say? Just faith. Who's right? The church or Yeshua? Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father, which is in heaven, doeth. Faith without works is dead. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? You know, guys, the Jews don't prophesy in the name of Yeshua. They get thrown out, beaten up. It's the churches. And in thy name have cast out devils. The Jews don't demon toss, let alone in the name of Yeshua. That's the church. And in thy name done many wonderful works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me that work lawlessness. Lawlessness means iniquity. They're not following the law. They teach you it's dead. If you haven't gotten this, you're probably not the elect, and you're never going to get it. Many are called and few are chosen. You're probably not the chosen one. And I could bang my head against the wall all day long trying to get it through to you, and it's probably never going to work. But if you are the elect and you hear this, you should come out from among them. Touch not the unclean thing. What unclean thing? Second Corinthians 11:4. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, whom we have not preached. Well, they preached the December 25th one, you know, whose mother is Esther, you know, Easter. Whom we have not preached, or if you receive another spirit which you have not received from them, they mean, or another gospel which ye have not received, you might well bear with them. They have another gospel. I've showed it to you today to a limited extent. Many, many more errors. And they preach another Jesus. They don't preach Yeshua HaMashiach, no. Their Jesus moved the Sabbath to Sunday. Their Jesus put singing Christmas trees up in the church in December. They put Christmas trees with presents under it. They have another gospel, all right. The law is dead. The rapture doesn't happen on the last day. It happens. I mean, they're crazy. It's another book, another Bible they have. They use the real Bible, but they twist it like the Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses or any of these other cults that use the Bible. Christian Scientists. There's nothing remarkable there. It's an old game, and they play it. When is the rapture? What did Yeshua tell us 4 times about the rapture? 4 times. John 6:39. And this is the Father's will, which sent me. Remember, Yeshua said you got to do the will of the Father. Okay, which sent me. That of all which he hath given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. The last day means there's no more days. The millennium is finished. Satan's released, gathers them like the sand of the sea to surround Jerusalem and New Jerusalem, lay siege, if you will. Father God from Jehovah comes down from heaven, burns the whole universe up. We meet him in the air because there's no place to stand, and we go up on the clouds of heaven to be with him. And the dead are also raised out of their graves. That's the last day. There's no more days. The next verse, and this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, but it happens right at that time. And I will raise him up at the last day. That's the second time. Verse 44, John 6:44. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. And John 6:54. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood, that's communion, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. All right, that's it. So to preach a pre-trib, a mid-trib, or a post-trib rapture where people get left behind, which Yeshua never preached, everybody goes up on the same day, is blasphemy or preaching another gospel, calling Yeshua a liar. Okay? That's all it is. And then they spread another gospel. That's bad fruit. Yeshua said bad fruit only comes from a bad tree. It's exclusive. Good fruit only from a good tree. The churches that feed this crop are bad fruit trees. And they get cut down and thrown in the fire, which is highly consistent with the tares and the wheat in Matthew 13. The tares get cut off first, they get bound, and then they get stored in the pit, and then they wind up in the judgment, and then they go into the lake of fire. And that happens at the end of the age. And there's 2 ages, the present age and the next one with everlasting life, which is when Yeshua appears, which is any day now. Now, you can reject this knowledge and Yeshua will reject you, but I'm reading it to you out of the Bible. Time is short. If you're going to sit there and continue going to the churches saying this stuff doesn't matter, you're rejecting knowledge. You'll be rejected. Most will not respond to this. They take great pleasure in having their ears tickled, thinking they're going to go up in some pre-trib rapture. They're crazy. Okay. Let's see. Someone posted Galatians 2:16. Let's take a peek. Galatians 2:16. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Yeshua Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. Even we have believed in Yeshua HaMashiach that we might be justified by the faith of Messiah, not by the works of the law. Well, this is not exactly what the church is doing. This is talking about not having faith in Yeshua, just trying to do Moses' law by itself won't get you there. That's a little different, of course. And then the other scripture I got was Romans 11:6. And if by grace, then it is no more of works, otherwise grace, yeah. But that's the message to the people, trying to follow the law alone and rejecting Jesus. It won't work. You need both. You need the law and Yeshua. Remember, don't think I came to destroy the law, or the prophets, but to fulfill it. So you can't have one without the other. Oh, the churches say that about works. Yeah. The churches do that. They don't want you to get wise to the fact that they're leading you astray. So, soon, days or weeks, you're going to see the sign of the Son of Man in the sky. The real believers are going to be changed with everlasting life. They're going to come to Israel. The Israelites are going to come to Israel. And it's going to be a wonderful place. The bad ones around the world will be gone. It's going to be nice, and we're going to beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks. And then when it comes to Gog and Magog, it reverses. You beat the plowshares into swords and the pruning hooks into spears. It reverses. But after Zechariah 12, it'll stop. Sometime after anyway, I'm quite confident we'll be fighting after we see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. But we're not going to be fighting with the weapons of the warfare like now. We'll be using sling stones like David. But we're going to be like Samson. That's how I understand it. Samson didn't have a Schwarzenegger-looking body, as far as I could tell. Samson, it was the Holy Spirit that empowered him, So just get out of the churches, ask the Lord to forgive you in the name of Yeshua the Messiah, and you don't owe them any explanation. Don't even explain it to them when they call you. Just ignore them. Let's forget about it. Most of us are not in much fellowship today because we're separated and disjointed and probably part of the trial. So if you want to get notified on the current events when the eggs start hitting the fan in Israel and the Middle East, you should be subscribed. So you'll get notices, because I'm in the habit when these things happen of doing multiple live streams a day and night. When things happen, I jump on. And you'll get noticed. And please give it a thumbs up. It's easy. It takes 2 seconds. It helps with the algorithm in YouTube. And please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Pray for our healing of our bodies, pray for our finances, pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole, and pray for better videos, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And an update on the solar is I'm having trouble getting the guy I need to get to sit down with me and discuss what's shaking with the solar and come up with a plan. I imagine I should get him on Sunday or Monday. It's frustrating with this guy that we use is that he's so difficult to, to get. If we have a crisis, like a water problem or something like that, he usually comes right away. But if it's not a crisis, he takes his time. This is a problem. If anybody wants to help out with solar, let me know. Apparently the way it works is you spend a few thousand shekels to get enough panels and batteries where you can run your house for maybe 4 hours or so. I think you use the same set of panels. You just change the batteries, but you could also have 2 sets of solar panels and 2 sets of batteries and stuff like that. So we're trying to see how many hours a day we could sustain on solar. So could we make it 8, 12, 16, 20, 24? It depends on how much money we can put in it. So we have people help us for the generator, and that's much appreciated. And this will be more money than we thought, but not more than the generator. The generator came out a lot more than I thought it would be. When you go to a company and you want to get the solar hooked into the whole house, turnkey, you can go to a bank and finance it without interest. There's a law for that. And they charge 70,000 shekels, which is roughly 20,000 US dollars. Can't do that. The nice thing about having the solar panels is we can cut our electricity bill way the heck down. Even when the power's not out in the country or the region, you can just run on solar and then recharge the batteries, and you don't need to worry about, you cut your electric bill way down. So that's what we're looking at now, and in any event, I guess we'll try to get enough, hopefully, for 12 hours. So theoretically, we could run it from maybe 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and then have a small extra battery that we charge to run a few house fans. House fans don't really take a lot of electricity, believe it or not. At night we could use the house fans, and then in the winter we could run the heaters off the solar. Well, actually our air conditioners are also heaters. In Israel they make them that way. They blow warm air, so you could always just run those, So it's not just an emergency thing, it would be an all the wild things. So you can cut your electric bill down, which is pretty substantial usually. It's not cheap. It's really not that cheap. When you're not running the heaters and you're not running the air conditioners, which is a precious few months a year, the electric bill goes way the heck down. Because all you're running is the lights, I don't know what else, the computers, maybe cooking on the electric stove and the refrigerator and the freezer. Not much. Not much. But those months are usually like late October and into November. maybe parts of December, and then parts of April and May, maybe, you might get 3 months a year like that, where you really don't have an electric bill. The other 9 months, you're running heaters or air conditioners or something like that. We used to, years ago, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, I would leave the air conditioner off till it went to 91 degrees and just sit in front of a fan. But that knocks you out. It wears you down. You're not alert. It's not good. If you do it at 8 to 85 degrees, yeah, that's a big difference. But it's not good. It's better to put the air conditioning on, and then you sleep really good at night. I usually crack a window so I get a little fresh air in the room. And I leave a window open here and there so we got fresh air. So I don't think breathing the air conditioning air in exclusively is such a great thing for you. I think it's better to have some fresh air mixed in with it, although the house doesn't stay as cold. It doesn't get monumentally hotter either. And it makes for, I think, better air supply. That's my opinion. I'm not, I don't have any scientific proof or evidence of any of this. I don't even know if it exists. I might be talking crazy, but that's my thinking. The people in Israel are stressed out plenty right now. They're wondering, is Iran going to attack us? Pakistan, the Houthis from Yemen, and who come from Iraq and Syria and Turkey, they're all going to come attack us. And what's the United States going to do? They can drop us like a hot potato. They're nervous. It's going to get worse before it gets better. They're going to knock. Some people are going to get cut off, which we covered today. It's going to get scarier. So some sort of a serious peace treaty that lasts would be out of the question, I think. I don't think Netanyahu's looking for anything with a ceasefire unless he comes out as a total winner. And we don't know. Hamas may surrender. When Sinwar and his other cronies realize their offices and compounds are being artillery shelled and the special forces are going to break in and gun them down, they may surrender. Thinking that their political friends around the world will make such a stink that they'll be able to get them deported out of Israel to another country. Which could be the case. And remember, after Iran hit Israel a few months ago with all those missiles and drones, Israel was going to do a big retaliation on Iran, and Biden told Israel, if you do that, I'm out. In other words, he's not going to help us anymore. So we did a relatively small attack on Iran. But Biden was worried about us doing a big attack, so bear in mind we can do a big attack on Iran. Okay. Could happen. We will. All right, guys, so that's what I got for today. I hope it was helpful. Those of you that know these scriptures, maybe it helped to see I put them together in an easy way for you. Wow, we're over 2 hours today. Okay. So I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thank you.